Sun ChʻÜan decides to attack Tsao. The dying message which the Lady Wu recalled to Sun ChʻÜan's memory was, "For internal matters consult Chang Kao, for external policy Chu Yu." Wherefore Chu Yu was summoned. But he was already on the way. He had been training his naval forces on Lake Pyongyang when he heard of the approach of Tsao's hosts, and had started for Changchun without loss of time. So, before the messenger ordered to call him could start, he had already arrived. As he and Lu Su were close friends, the latter went to welcome him and told him of all that had happened. "Have no anxiety," said Chu Yu. "I shall be able to decide this. But go quickly and beg KʻUng-Ming to come to see me." So Lu Su went to seek out KʻUng-Ming. Chu Yu had many other visitors. First came Chang Kao and his faction to find out what might be afoot. They were received, and after the exchange of the usual commonplaces, Chang Kao said, "Have you heard of our terrible danger?" "I have heard nothing," said Chu Yu. Tsao and his hordes are encamped up the river. He has just sent letters asking our Lord to hunt with him in Chiangxia. He may have a desire to absorb this country, but if so, the details of his designs are still secret. We prayed our master to give in his submission and so avoid the horrors of war. But now Lu Su has returned, bringing with him the commander-in-chief of Liu Pei's army, Zhuge Liang. He, desiring to avenge himself for the recent defeat, has talked our Lord into a mind for war, and Lu Su persists in supporting him. They only await your final decision. Are you and yours unanimous in your opinions?" "We are perfectly unanimous," said Chang. Chu said, "The fact is I have also desired to submit for a long time. I beg you to leave me now, and tomorrow we will see our master, and I shall make up his mind for him." So they took their leave. Very soon came the military party led by Changpu. They were admitted and duly inquired after their host's health. Then the leader said, "Have you heard that our country is about to pass under another's government?" "No, I have heard nothing," replied the host. "We helped General Sun to establish his authority here and carve out this kingdom, and to gain that end, we fought many a battle before we conquered the country. Now our Lord lends his ear to his civil officers and desires to submit himself to Tsao. This is a most shameful and pitiful course, and we would rather die than follow it. So we hope you will decide to fight, and you may depend upon our struggling to the last man." "And are you unanimous, generals?" asked Chu Yu. Huang Kai suddenly started up and smote his forehead, saying, "They may take my head, but I swear never to surrender." "Not one of us is willing to surrender," cried all the others. "My desire also is to decide matters with Tsao on the battlefield. How could we think of submission? Now I pray you retire, generals, and when I see our Lord I will settle his doubts." So the war party left. They were quickly succeeded by Ching and his faction. They were brought in, and after the usual courtesies, Ching said, "My brother has come down the river saying that Liu Pei desires to ally himself with our Lord against Tsao. The civil and military hold different opinions as to the course to be pursued, but as my brother is so deeply concerned, I am unwilling to say much on either side. We are awaiting your decision." "And what do you think about it?" asked Chu Yu. "Submission is an easy road to tranquility, while the result of war is hard to foretell." Chu Yu smiled. "I shall have my mind made up. Come tomorrow to the palace and the decision shall be announced." The trimmers took their leave. But soon after came Luo Guanzhong with his supporters, also desirous of discussing the same thing, and they told him that opinions differed greatly, some being for peace and others for war. One party constantly disputed with the other. "I must not say much now," replied Chou, "but you will see tomorrow in the palace, when the matter will be fully debated." They went away, leaving Chou smiling cynically. About eventide, Lu Su and KʻUng-Ming came, and Chou went out to the main gate to receive them. When they had taken their proper seats, Lu Su spoke first, saying, "Tsao has come against the south with a huge army. Our master cannot decide whether to submit or give battle and waits for your decision. What is your opinion?" Chou replied, "We may not oppose Tsao when he acts at the command of the emperor. Moreover, he is very strong, and to attack him is to take serious risks. In my opinion, opposition would mean defeat, and since submission means peace, I have decided to advise our lord to write and offer surrender." "But you are wrong," stammered Lu Su. "This country has been under the same rule for 3 generations and cannot be suddenly abandoned to some other. Tsao said that you were to be consulted on matters beyond the border, and we depended upon you to keep the country as secure and solid as Mount Ti. Now you adopt the view of the weaklings and propose to yield. I cannot believe you mean it," replied Chou. "The 6 districts contain countless people. If I am the means of bringing upon them the misery of war, they will hate me. So I have decided to advise submission. But do you not realize our Lord's might and the strength of our country? If Tsao does attack, it is very uncertain that he will realize his desire." The two wrangled for a long time, while KʻUng-Ming sat smiling with folded arms. Presently Chou asked why he smiled thus, and he replied, "I am smiling at no other than your opponent Lu Su, who knows nothing of the affairs of the day." "Master," said Lu Su, "what do you mean?" "Why, this intention to submit is perfectly reasonable. It is the one proper thing." "There," exclaimed Chou, "KʻUng-Ming knows the times perfectly well, and he agrees with me." "But both of you, why do you say this?" said Lu. Said KʻUng-Ming, "Tsao is an excellent commander, so good that no one dares oppose him. Only very few have ever attempted it, and they have been exterminated. The world knows them no more. The only exception is Liu Pei, who did not understand the conditions and vigorously contended against him, with the result that he is now at ChʻÜan in a very parlous state. To submit is to secure the safety of wives and children, to be rich and honored. But the dignity of the country would be left to chance and fate. However, that is not worth consideration." Lu Su interrupted angrily, "Would you make our lord crook the knee to such a rebel as he?" "Well," replied KʻUng-Ming, "there is another way, and a cheaper. There would be no need to lead the sheep and shoulder wine pots for presents, nor any need to yield territory and surrender seals of office. It would not even be necessary to cross the river yourselves. All you would require is a simple messenger, and a little boat to ferry a couple of people across the river. If Tsao only got these 2 persons under his hand, his hordes and legions would just drop their weapons, furl their banners, and silently vanish away." "What 2 persons could cause Tsao to go away, as you say?" asked Chou. "2 persons who could be easily spared from this populous country. They would not be missed any more than a leaf from a tree or a grain of millet from a granary. But if Tsao could only get them, would he not go away rejoicing?" "But who are the 2? asked Chou again. "When I was living in the country, they told me that Tsao was building a pavilion on the Chang River. It was to be named the Bronze Bird Pavilion. It is an exceedingly handsome building, and he has sought throughout all the world for the most beautiful women to live in it. For Tsao really is a sensualist. Now there are 2 very famous beauties in ChʻÜan, born of the ChʻÜan family. So beautiful are they that birds alight and fishes drown, the moon hides her face, and the flowers blush for shame at sight of them. Tsao has declared with an oath that he only wants two things in this world: the imperial throne in peace, and the sight of those two women on the bronze bird terraces. Given these two, he would go down to his grave without regret. This expedition of his huge army that threatens this country, has for its real aim these two women. Why do you not buy these two from their father for any sum however large and send them over the river? The object of the army being attained, it will simply be marched away. This is the use that Fan Lai made of the famous beauty Hsi Shi. How do you know he so greatly desires these two? Said Chou. Because his son, who is an able writer, at the command of his father wrote a poem and ode to the bronze bird terrace, the theme only allowing allusions to the family fitness for the throne. He has sworn to possess these two women. I think I can remember the poem if you wish to hear it. I admire it greatly. Try, said Chou. So he recited the poem. Let me follow in the footsteps of the enlightened ruler that I may rejoice, and ascend the storied terrace that I may gladden my heart, that I may see the wide extent of the palace, that I may gaze upon the plans of the virtuous one. He has established the exalted gates high as the hills. He has built the lofty towers piercing the blue vault. He has set up the beautiful building in the midst of the heavens, whence the eye can range over the cities of the west. On the banks of the rolling river Chang he planned it, whence abundance of fruits could be looked for in his gardens. The two towers rise, one on either flank, this named Golden Phoenix, that Jade Dragon. He would seize the two ChʻÜan, these beautiful ladies of the southeast, that he might rejoice with them morning and evening. Look down, there is the grand beauty of an imperial city, and the rolling vapors lie floating beneath. He will rejoice in the multitude of scholars that assemble, answering to the felicitous dream of King Wern. Look up, and there is the gorgeous harmony of springtime, and the singing of many birds delighting the ear. The lofty sky stands over all. The house desires success in its double undertaking, that the humane influence may be poured out over all the world, that the perfection of reverence may be offered to the ruler. Only the richly prosperous rule of ChʻÜan and Wern could compare with that of the sacred understanding. What fortune! What beauty! The gracious kindness spreads afar, the imperial family is supported, peace reigns over all the world, bounded only by the universe. Bright as the glory of the sun and moon, ever honorable and ever enduring, the ruler shall live to the age of the Eastern Emperor. The dragon banner shall wave to the farthest limit. His glorious chariot shall be guided with perfect wisdom. His thoughts shall reform all the world. Felicitous produce shall be abundant, and the people shall rest firm. My desire is that these towers shall endure forever, and that joy shall never cease through all the ages. Chou listened to the end, but then suddenly jumped up in a tremendous rage. Turning to the north and pointing with his finger, he cried, "You old rebel, this insult is too deep." KʻUng-Ming hastily rose too, and as if to soothe him, said, "But remember Shan Yu. The emperor gave him a princess of the family to wife, although he had made many incursions into our territory. That was the price of peace. You surely would not grudge two more women from among the people." "You do not know, sir," replied Chou. "Of those two women you mentioned, the elder is the widow of Sun Tsar, our late ruler, and the younger is my wife." KʻUng-Ming feigned the greatest astonishment and said, "No, indeed, I did not know. I blundered, a deadly fault, a deadly fault. One of us two has to go, either the old rebel or I. We shall not both live." "I swear that," cried Chou. "However, such a matter needs a good deal of thought," replied KʻUng-Ming. "We must not make any mistake." Chou replied, "I hold a sacred trust from my late lord, Sun Tsar. I would not bow the knee to any such as Tsao. What I said just now was to see how you stood. I left the lake with the intention of attacking the north, and nothing can change that intention, not even the sword at my breast or the axe on my neck. But I trust you will lend an arm, and we will smite Tsao together. Should I be happy enough not to be rejected, I would render such humble service as I could. Perhaps presently I might be able to offer a plan to oppose him. I am going to see my lord tomorrow to discuss this matter, said Chou. KʻUng-Ming and Lu Su then left. Next day at dawn ChʻÜan went to the council chamber, where his officials, civil and military, were already assembled. They numbered about 60 in all. The civil, with Chang-Kao at their head, were on the right. The military, with ChʻÜan as their leader, were ranged on the left. All were in full ceremonial dress, and the swords of the soldiers clanked on the pavement. Soon Chou entered, and when Sun ChʻÜan had finished the usual gracious remarks, he said, "I hear that Tsao is encamped on the river and has sent a dispatch to you, my lord. I would ask what your opinion is." Thereupon the dispatch was produced and handed to Chou. After reading it through he said, smiling, "The old thief thinks there are no men in this land that he writes in this contemptuous strain." "What do you think, sir?" asked Sun ChʻÜan. "Have you discussed this with the officials?" asked Chou. "We have been discussing this for days. Some counsel surrender and some advise fight. I am undecided, and therefore I have asked you to come and decide the point." "Who advise surrender?" asked Chou. "Chang-Kao and his party are firmly set in this opinion." Chou then turned to Chang-Kao and said, "I should be pleased to hear why you are for surrender, master." Then Chang-Kao replied, Tsao has been attacking all opponents in the name of the emperor, who is entirely in his hands. He does everything in the name of the government. Lately he has taken Qingchu and thereby increased his prestige. Our defense against him was the river, but now he also has a large fleet and can attack by water. How can we withstand him? Wherefore I counsel submission till some chance shall offer." "This is but the opinion of an ill-advised student," said Chou. "How can you think of abandoning this country that we have held for 3 generations? "That being so," said Sun ChʻÜan, "where is a plan to come from? Though Tsao assumes the name of a minister of the empire, he is at heart a rebel. You, O general, are able in war and brave. You are the heir to your father and brother. You command brave and tried soldiers, and you have plentiful supplies. You are able to overrun the whole country and rid it of every evil. There is no reason why you should surrender to a rebel. Moreover, Tsao has undertaken this expedition in defiance of all the rules of war. The north is unsubdued, and Ma Tieng and Han Sui threaten his rear, and yet he persists in his southern march. This is the first point against Tsao. The northern men are unused to fighting on the water. Tsao is relinquishing his well-tried cavalry and trusting to ships. That is the second point against him. Again, we are now in full winter, and the weather is at its coldest, so there is no food for the horses. That is the third point against. Soldiers from the central state marching in a wet country among lakes and rivers will find themselves in an unaccustomed climate and suffer from malaria. That is the fourth point against. Now when Tsao's armies have all these points against them, defeat is certain, however numerous they may be, and you can take Tsao captive just as soon as you wish. Give me a few companies of veterans, and I will go and destroy him." Sun ChʻÜan started up from his place, saying, "The rebellious old rascal has been wanting to overthrow the Han's and set up himself for years. He has rid himself of all those he feared, save only myself, and I swear that one of us two shall go now. Both of us cannot live. What you say, noble friend, is just what I think, and heaven has certainly sent you to my assistance." "Thy servant will fight a decisive battle," said Chou, "and shrink not from any sacrifice. Only, General, do not hesitate." Sun ChʻÜan drew the sword that hung at his side and slashed the table in front of him, exclaiming, "Let any other man mention surrender, and he shall be served as I have served this table." Then he handed the sword to Chou, at the same time giving him a commission as Commander-in-Chief, ChʻÜan being second in command. Lu Su was also nominated as assistant. In conclusion, Sun said, "With this sword you will slay any officer who may disobey your commands." Chou took the sword and turning to the assembly said, "You have heard our Lord's charge to me, to lead you to destroy Tsao. You will all assemble tomorrow at the riverside camp to receive my orders. Should any be late or fail, then the full rigor of military law, the 7 prohibitions and the 54 penalties there provided, will be enforced." He took leave of Sun ChʻÜan and left the chamber. The various officers also went their several ways. When Chou reached his own place, he sent for KʻUng-Ming to consult over the business in hand. He told him of the decision that had been taken and asked for a plan of campaign. "But your master has not yet made up his mind," said KʻUng-Ming. "Till he has, no plan can be decided upon." "What do you mean?" "In his heart he is still fearful of Tsao's numbers and frets over the inequality of the 2 armies. You will have to explain away those numbers and bring him to a final decision before anything can be effected." "What you say is excellent," said Chou, and he went to the palace that night to see his master. Sun ChʻÜan said, "You must have something of real importance to say if you come like this at night." Chou said, "I am making my dispositions tomorrow. You have quite made up your mind." "The fact is," said Sun ChʻÜan, "I still feel nervous about the disparity of numbers. Surely we are too few. That is really all I feel doubtful about. It is precisely because you have this one remaining doubt that I am come. And I will explain. Tsao's letter speaks of 100 legions of Marines, and so you feel doubts and fears and do not wait to consider the real truth. Let us examine the case thoroughly. We find that he has of Central State soldiers, say, 15 or 16 legions, and many of them are sick. He only got 7 or 8 legions from the Yuans, and many of those are of doubtful loyalty. Now these sick men and these men of doubtful loyalty seem a great many, but they are not at all fearsome. I could smash them with 5 legions. So, my lord, have no further anxiety." Sun ChʻÜan patted his general on the back, saying, "You have explained my difficulty and relieved my doubts. Chang Keo is an old fool who constantly balks my expeditions. Only you and Lu Su have any real understanding of my heart. Tomorrow you and he and ChʻÜan will start, and I shall have a strong reserve ready with plentiful supplies to support you. If anything goes awry, you can at once send for me, and I will engage with my own men." Chou left, but in his innermost heart he said to himself, "If that KʻUng-Ming can gauge my master's thoughts so very accurately, he is too clever for me and will be a danger. He will have to be put out of the way." He sent a messenger over to Lu Su to talk over this last scheme. When he had laid it bare, Lu Su did not favor it. "No, no," said he. "It is self-destruction to make away with your ablest officer before Tsao shall have been destroyed. But KʻUng-Ming will certainly help Liu Pei to our disadvantage. Try what his brother Chuko Chin can do to persuade him. It would be an excellent thing to have these 2 in our service." "Yes, indeed," replied Chou. Next morning at dawn, Chou went to his camp and took his seat in the council tent. The lictors took up their stations right and left, and the officers ranged themselves in lines to listen to the orders. Now ChʻÜan, who was older than Chou, was very angry at being passed over, so he made a pretense of indisposition and stayed away from this assembly. But he sent his son to represent him. Chou addressed the gathering, saying, The law knows no partiality, and you will all have to attend to your several duties. Tsao is now more absolute than ever was Tung Chou, and the emperor is really a prisoner in Sucheng, guarded by the most cruel soldiers. We have a command to destroy Tsao, and with your willing help we shall advance. The army must cause no hardship to the people anywhere. Rewards for good service and punishments for faults shall be given impartially. Having delivered this charge, he told offhand Tang and Huang Kai as leaders of the van, and ordered the ships under his own command to get under way and go to Sankyunku. They would get orders by and by. Then he appointed 5 armies with 2 officers over each, while Lu Fan and Chu Chi were appointed inspectors, to move from place to place and keep the various units up to their work, and acting with due regard to the general plan. Land and marine forces were to move simultaneously. The expedition would soon start. Having received their orders, each returned to his command and busied himself in preparation. Chঙ-Piu's son returned and told his father what arrangements had been made, and Chঙ-Piu was amazed at their skill. Said he, "I have always despised Chu Yu as a mere student who would never be a general, but this shows that he has a leader's talent. I must support him." So he went over to the quarters of the commander-in-chief and confessed his fault. He was received kindly, and all was over. Next, Chu Yu sent for Chuko Chin and said to him, "Evidently your brother is a genius, a man born to be a king's counselor. Why then does he serve Liu Pei? Now that he is here, I wish you to use every effort to persuade him to stay with us. Thus our Lord would gain able support, and you 2 brothers would be together, which would be pleasant for you both. I wish you success." Chin replied, "I am ashamed of the little service I have rendered since I came here, and I can do no other than obey your command to the best of my ability." Thereupon he went away to his brother, whom he found in the guest house. The younger brother received him, and when he had reached the inner rooms, KʻUng-Ming bowed respectfully, and weeping, told his experiences since they parted and his sorrow at their separation. Then Chin, weeping also, said, "Brother, do you remember the story of Po-I and Shu Chie, the brothers who would not be separated?" "Ah, Chu Yu has sent him to talk me over," thought KʻUng-Ming. So he replied, "They were 2 of the noble people of old days. Yes, I know. Those 2, although they perished of hunger near the Shaoyang hills, yet never separated. You and I, born of the same mother and suckled at the same breast, yet serve different masters and never meet. Are you not ashamed when you think of such examples as Po-I and Shu Chie?" KʻUng-Ming replied, "You are talking now of love, but what I stand for is duty. We are both men of Han, and Liu Pei is of the family. If you, brother, could leave Wu and join me in serving the rightful branch, then on the one side we should be honored as ministers of Han, and on the other we should be together as people of the same flesh and blood should be. Thus love and duty would both receive their proper meed. What do you think of it, my brother?" I came to persuade him, and lo, it is I who am being talked over, thought Chuko Chin. He had no fitting reply to make, so he rose and took his leave. Returning to Chu Yu, he related the story of the interview. "What do you think?" asked Chu Yu. "General's son has treated me with great kindness, and I could not turn my back on him," replied Chin. "Since you decide to remain loyal, there is no need to say much. I think I have a plan to win over your brother. The wisest men see eye to eye, for each but sees the right, but should their several interests clash, they all the fiercer fight. The means by which Chu Yu tried to get the support of KʻUng-Ming will be described in the next chapter.